Admiral Krell of the mighty Vindari Empire stands on the command deck of his dreadnought, mandibles clicking with anticipation as the holographic display reveals their newest target. A small blue-green planet designated Earth rotates slowly before him. Seemingly insignificant yet surrounded by an inexplicable void in conquest efforts. Strange energy readings fluctuate around the system, and even stranger it is the behavior of other spacefaring races who give this unremarkable world an unusually wide berth. Tactical analysis complete, Admiral, announces Sub-Commander Vexorn, her carapace glistening under the harsh light of the command center. The inhabitants possess rudimentary nuclear capabilities and have achieved limited spaceflight, but nothing that would challenge even our scout vessels. Krellfar's compound eyes narrow, focusing on the anomalous readings surrounding the third planet. Then explain why it remains unclaimed. This system contains abundant resources, habitable worlds, and a species ripe for subjugation. By all metrics, it should have been conquered centuries ago. The command deck falls silent as officers exchange uneasy glances. Finally, Science Officer Mril Dax approaches, clutching a data crystal between his pincers. Admiral, I've compiled historical records of this sector. 27 separate expeditionary forces have approached this system in the past millennium. None proceeded to invasion stage. There is no record of why they withdrew. Krellfar's exoskeleton bristles with irritation. The Vindari Empire has subjugated 1,000 worlds across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Their battle doctrine has crushed civilizations far more advanced than these humans. Yet something about this insignificant blue world has deterred even the most aggressive spacefaring species. Deploy scout ships to the system periphery, he orders, mandibles clicking decisively. Full stealth protocols. I want to know what we're facing. Within hours, the scouts report a discovery that defies Imperial protocol. A loose network of observation posts maintained by various species, some of whom are bitter enemies. Kraxian monitoring stations orbit alongside Delphic sensor arrays and Macordia listening posts, all maintaining the same distance from Earth, all watching with obsessive vigilance. This is unprecedented, whispers Vexorn. The Kraxians and Delphics have been at war for 3 centuries. Why would they position assets in such close proximity? Krellfar authorizes first contact protocols with one of the observation posts, a Zephyrian structure chosen for its species' generally neutral diplomatic stance. Lieutenant Kirvak's communication attempt triggers an immediate response, but not the one expected. The Zephyrian commander's translucent face materializes on screen, eyes widening in apparent terror when Kirvak identifies their vessel as Vindari. You must leave this system immediately. The Zephyrian hisses, voice modulator barely concealing its panic. This territory is forbidden by the ancient compact. The Vindari Empire recognizes no authority but its own. Kirvak responds imperiously. Explain your presence and the nature of this compact immediately. The Zephyrian's gill slits pulse rapidly, a sign of extreme distress. The surface dwellers are not alone. They are not what they seem. The transmission terminates abruptly, and within moments, the observation post powers down its external systems, becoming virtually invisible to sensors. More disturbing still, when the scouts approach other observation posts, they receive no response at all. Instead, the alien vessels simply reposition themselves, maintaining their vigilant watch on Earth, while pointedly ignoring the Vindari presence. Back aboard the dreadnought, Imperial historian Sevranth uncovers troubling inconsistencies in the official records. Admiral, I've been cross-referencing our conquest database with astronomical surveys of this sector. According to official documentation, we've dispatched 3 separate reconnaissance missions to this system over the past 5 millennia. Yet there are no mission reports, no data entries, nothing to indicate what they found. Krellfar stares at the slowly rotating hologram of Earth, his veteran instincts sensing danger beyond anything in his long career of conquest. Prepare a stealth probe for atmospheric insertion, he commands. Whatever secret this world harbors, The Empire will uncover it. No planet resists the Vindari. None. The stealth probe descends through Earth's atmosphere, its adaptive camouflage rendering it invisible to the primitive radar systems scanning the skies. Within the observation chamber aboard the Vindari dreadnought, Admiral Krelthar and his senior officers watch the real-time feed with predatory anticipation. Remarkable how fragile their civilization appears, notes Strategic Officer Lorvex, manipulating the three-dimensional tactical display with a casual flick of his appendage. Their military forces are divided by arbitrary geographical boundaries. No unified planetary defense. No orbital weapons platforms. Their most advanced aircraft couldn't even reach our lower stratospheric deployment zone. The probe glides silently over a sprawling human metropolis. Its designation tag identifies it as New York City, where millions of humans move about in chaotic patterns that make Vindari military sensibilities recoil in disgust. Such disorder, Krelthar mutters. How has their species survived this long without proper hierarchical structure? Science Officer Mrildax adjusts the sensor parameters, focusing on the electromagnetic spectrum emanating from the human settlement. Their communication technology is primitive but surprisingly robust. They rely heavily on wireless data transmission with minimal encryption. We've already compiled a comprehensive linguistic database and cultural overview. The Admiral's compound eyes narrow as he studies the behavioral patterns displayed on secondary monitors. There's something off about their movements. Tactical. Analyze their response to environmental stimuli. The tactical AI complies instantly. Anomalous behavioral patterns detected. Human subjects occasionally exhibit microsecond lapses in movement continuity. When isolated and enhanced, the AI magnifies a sequence showing a human female walking down a crowded street. For an almost imperceptible moment, her form seems to blur, as if briefly existing in multiple positions simultaneously. Sensor malfunction, queries Vexorn. Negative, responds the AI. The phenomenon appears consistently across all observation zones at random intervals. 97% of humans exhibit this anomaly at least once within a standard observation period. The probe continues its silent journey, diving beneath the surface of an ocean designated Pacific. Marine life scatters from its path as it descends into the crushing depths. The command deck grows quieter with each 1,000 meters of descent, the pressure readings climbing to levels that would collapse even Vindari deep-sea vessels. Thermal anomaly detected at bearing 047, depth 9,842 meters, announces the sensor officer. Readings inconsistent with geological activity. The probe's illuminators pierce the abyssal darkness, revealing a section of ocean floor that appears to pulse, as if breathing in slow, measured rhythm. Before anyone can comment, the probe's sensors detect movement, something massive shifting beneath the sediment. Magnify Sector 4, Krelthar orders, his voice unusually subdued. The image clarifies, revealing what appears to be a colossal eye, partially buried beneath the ocean floor, easily 100 meters across. The pupil, black as the void between galaxies, slowly rotates toward the probe's position. Impossible, whispers Mrildax. No biological entity cold. The feed distorts suddenly, pixelating into incomprehensible patterns. For 3.7 seconds, the audio pickups transmit a sound that causes several officers to collapse, green ichor leaking from their auditory cavities. The noise defies categorization, not quite mechanical, not entirely biological, existing somewhere beyond conventional acoustics. When the feed stabilizes, the probe shows only undisturbed ocean floor. The eye is gone. The breathing motion has ceased. All readings appear normal. Transmission compromised. The tactical AI reports. Unknown data packets detected in probe's substrate programming, initiating quarantine protocols. Too late. The holographic display flickers, momentarily replaced by an image that burns itself into the retinas of every Vindari present. Billions of human faces, all expressionless, all with eyes that reflect something ancient and vast and patient. Chief Security Officer Trazkor slams his appendage on the emergency cutoff, severing the connection. The room falls silent except for the soft keening of a junior officer driven to the edge of sanity. "Admiral," Trazkor finally speaks, his voice steady despite the tremor in his limbs. "I've cross-referenced the data corruption pattern with our historical archives. It matches fragments recovered from the Sorelian Dominion's failed invasion of the Proxima Centauri system, their last military action before their civilization's unexplained collapse." Krelthar stares at the now blank screen, mandibles clicking in a pattern that hasn't been observed in his behavior since the disastrous Coreward campaign. It's fear. "Deploy a second probe," he orders. "This time, I want ground infiltration. Show me the humans up close." The neutral space station hangs in the void between Mars and Jupiter, its architecture a deliberate compromise, angular enough to accommodate Vindari sensibilities while incorporating the curved elements preferred by humans. Admiral Krelthar observes the approaching Earth vessel through the panoramic viewport, his posture rigid with barely contained tension. "Their ship is primitive," comments Ambassador Zervex, the Empire's foremost diplomatic asset. His carapace bears the ceremonial etchings of 17 successful planetary negotiations, each marking representing a world that surrendered without the Empire firing a single shot. Hull composition appears to be standard metals with minimal shielding, no discernible weapons systems. Yet something about the vessel's approach troubles the seasoned ambassador. Despite its apparent technological inferiority, it navigates the complex gravitational influences of the asteroid belt with perfect precision. No course corrections, no propulsion fluctuations, as if the void itself accommodates its passage. "They accepted our terms without negotiation," Krelthar notes. "No species has ever agreed to our initial diplomatic parameters without at least token resistance." Zervex's sensory antennae flutter with uncharacteristic agitation. Perhaps they understand their position. Or perhaps. The docking sequence completes with a soft reverberation through the station's structure. The human delegation has arrived. Protocol dictates that Zervex should wait, allowing the petitioners to present themselves first, a subtle psychological advantage. But when the airlock cycles open, the ambassador finds himself moving forward unbidden, drawn by an inexplicable compulsion. 3 humans enter the chamber. A silver-haired female whose weathered skin suggests advanced age by their species standards. A young male with intricate patterns visible beneath the collar of his formal attire. And between them, an elderly male figure of unremarkable appearance, yet possessed of a presence that somehow fills the vast room more completely than Krelthar's 12-warrior honor guard. We greet the Vindari Empire with open minds and peaceful intent. The silver-haired woman speaks, her command of the imperial language flawless despite humans having no prior contact with their civilization. "I am Dr. Elena Castillo, Secretary General of Earth's Unified Response Division." Zervex recovers his diplomatic poise, performing the traditional greeting gesture. The Eternal Empire welcomes this opportunity for productive discourse. "I am Ambassador Zervex, voice of the Emperor." He activates his empathic receptors, standard procedure during first contact, allowing him to sense emotional undercurrents and tailor his approach accordingly. The feedback nearly kills him. Instead of the expected emotional signature, fear, awe, perhaps determination, Zervex encounters something that his psyche cannot process. It's as if each human broadcasts not one consciousness, but countless overlapping awareness patterns, stretching backward through time in endless regression. Their thoughts exist simultaneously in multiple states, quantum entangled with something vast and incomprehensible. The ambassador collapses, mandibles locked in a silent scream as neural overload cascades through his specialized brain structures. Medical drones rush to stabilize his convulsing form as Krelthar steps forward, weapon reflexively drawn. "What have you done to him?" the Admiral demands, his honor guard forming a protective perimeter. The elderly man steps forward, utterly unperturbed by the weapons trained on his fragile form. We've done nothing. He simply saw what he was not prepared to see. He approaches the stricken ambassador, kneeling beside his trembling form with surprising grace for one so aged. Your empath reached into our minds without permission, he continues, placing a weathered hand on Zervex's carapace. He glimpsed what we carry, the burden of continuity. The ambassador's convulsions cease as the human's touch seems to stabilize his neural pathways. His compound eyes clear momentarily, focusing on the elderly human's face with horrified recognition. You? Zervex whispers. I saw you in the ancient records. The same face, the same eyes. How is this possible? The elderly human smiles with infinite sadness. We've carried the burden since before your ancestors crawled from the primordial seas of Vinder Prime. We will continue carrying it long after your empire is dust among countless others who forgot our warning. The diplomatic chamber falls silent except for the soft, rhythmic clicking of Zervex's mandibles, a sound that every Vindari recognizes as the instinctive response to existential terror. The scientific vessel Relentless Inquiry hovers over the rust-colored Martian landscape, its excavation beams carving precisely through millennia of dust and rock. Chief Archaeologist Nevraith supervises the operation from the command center, her exoskeleton bearing the distinctive markings of the Imperial Science Academy's highest echelon. Anomalous structure confirmed at 37 meters depth, she announces, manipulating the holographic display to highlight a perfectly geometric formation beneath the surface. Composition inconsistent with natural Martian geology. Definitely artificial. The diplomatic disaster has forced Admiral Krell to pursue alternative information sources, while Ambassador Zervex remains in medical isolation, still muttering incomprehensibly about the cycle that never ends. The Vindari expedition has pivoted to archaeological investigation of Earth's neighboring planets. Proceed with full extraction, Krell orders, mandibles clicking with impatience. I want answers, not more mysteries. The excavation team uncovers the entrance to a vast subterranean complex stretching for kilometers beneath the Martian surface. Initial scans reveal atmospheric containment systems that activate automatically upon detection of the Vindari presence, as if the facility had been waiting for visitors. This technology, whispers assistant researcher Trollvox, studying the self-illuminating corridors. Some elements resemble precursor design principles, but others are. I have no reference for comparison. The complex appears designed for humanoid occupants, with doorways and passageways scaled to dimensions roughly compatible with human physiology. More disturbing are the thousands of empty stasis chambers lining the main corridors, their reinforced doors torn outward, as if whatever they contained had violently escaped. In the central chamber, the team discovers an active data core, a crystalline structure that pulses with internal light. When interfaced with Vindari technology, it projects a three-dimensional recording that transforms the chamber around them. The holographic scene depicts a Mars teeming with life, oceans, atmosphere, and a civilization of beings remarkably similar to humans, but with subtle anatomical differences. These proto-humans work alongside entities of pure energy, constructing massive machines in orbit around the neighboring blue planet. Translation algorithm complete, announces the team's linguist. Audio component accessible. A voice, melodic yet precise, fills the chamber. Phase 3 of project containment proceeds on schedule. The boundary layer has been stabilized following the Europan breach. The entities remain dormant, though we have detected increased neural activity in the deep ocean specimens. The recording shifts to show Earth from orbit, surrounded by a network of satellites that project a field of shimmering energy into the planet's atmosphere. Below, massive oceanic disturbances suggest movement of something impossibly large beneath the surface. The symbiotes remain our best solution, the voice continues. Their dual-nature DNA template has proven stable through 50 generations of testing. They can maintain conscious interface with the entities while retaining independent function. Production has been accelerated following the Venus catastrophe. The recording shifts again, showing rows of human forms in development chambers. unmistakably the ancestors of modern Earth humans. These vessels represent our final adaptation, explains a different voice, heavier with authority. Conscious enough to maintain the prison through will alone, numerous enough to sustain containment through natural reproduction cycles, resilient enough to survive the expected extinction events. The perfect synthesis of guardian and cage. The recording abruptly terminates as Trelvok stumbles backward, dropping a sample container that shatters against the ancient floor. Her appendages tremble as she points to a previously unnoticed alcove where light has just activated. Inside stands a display case containing a set of Vindari armor, ceremonial in design but battle-worn, its surface etched with glyphs identifying it as belonging to Commander Vilnorin of the 4th Imperial Exploratory Legion. According to all official records, this expedition never reached the Sol system. Carbon dating places the artifact at approximately 20,000 standard years old. Beside it rests a data crystal of unmistakable Vindari manufacture. When cautiously accessed, it contains only a single log entry in ancient imperial script. They are not what we thought. The humans opened their skin like doorways to somewhere else. Emperor preserve us. They were waiting for us all along. Operation ShadowNet is a direct violation of diplomatic protocols, warns Security Chief Trazkor, his carapace plates flaring with agitation. The other observer species will consider this an aggressive action. Admiral Krelthar dismisses the concern with an irritated click of his mandibles. The diplomatic approach failed. The archaeological evidence is incomplete. We need living specimens to understand what we're facing. The research vessel, Endless Inquiry, maintains position in Earth's shadow, its advanced cloaking systems rendering it invisible to human detection technology. On the primary observation deck, the Admiral watches as the extraction teams deliver their quarry. 6 humans collected from isolated regions across the planet's surface, each selected for diversity of genetic backgrounds. Subjects secured in Containment Wing Alpha, reports Chief Medical Officer Drelvos. Initial scans show normal vital signs, no apparent awareness of their situation. The humans appear remarkably calm within their transparent observation chambers. A male with dark skin and gray-streaked hair sits cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed in what the cultural database identifies as a meditative posture. A female with epicanthic folds and augmented limb prosthetics examines her enclosure with methodical curiosity. The others display similarly composed behavior, no panic, no desperate attempts to escape. Begin full spectrum analysis, Krelthar orders. I want cellular-level examination, brain activity mapping, and DNA sequencing. The preliminary physical examinations reveal nothing extraordinary. Standard bipedal primates with expected biological systems. Minor anatomical variations between specimens fall within normal parameters for an evolved species. Nothing suggests the terrifying potential hinted at in the Martian records. Admiral, calls Drelvos, her voice uncharacteristically hesitant. You need to examine these DNA results personally. The holographic display shows human genetic code, but interspersed throughout the familiar double helix structure are segments that defy conventional biological classification. These sections appear almost crystalline in their organization, with mathematical precision that suggests artificial design rather than evolutionary development. When isolated and decoded as information rather than biology, explains the xenogeneticist, these segments contain what appears to be fragments of a complex mathematical proof, describing the theoretical containment of 11-dimensional space within 3-dimensional parameters. Before Krelthar can respond, the ship's sensors detect massive energy fluctuations emanating from the subject's cerebral regions as they enter sleep cycles. The monitoring equipment registers brainwave patterns that momentarily sync across all 6 humans despite their physical separation. During the designated night cycle, security footage captures a disturbing anomaly. The sleeping humans briefly phase out of visible reality, their forms becoming translucent, edges blurring into impossible geometries, before reappearing exactly as they were. Most disturbing is that the guards stationed outside their chambers show no reaction to this impossible event, their attention sliding away as if the phenomenon exists in a blind spot of perception. By ship's morning, all 6 humans have vanished from their hermetically sealed chambers. No alarms triggered, no barriers breached, no evidence of conventional escape. Where each subject had been, the research team finds intricate patterns burned into the reinforced containment walls. Patterns that, when analyzed, perfectly match the defensive schematics of the Vindari homeworld military installations, information that no alien species should possess. More terrifying still, every crew member who directly interacted with the humans now experiences identical nightmares. Dreams of ancient starships arriving at Earth, of civilizations rising and falling while humans remain unchanged, of a bargain struck when the universe was young, and the price of breaking it. Medical officer Drell Vos discovers the final horror when reviewing her neural scans of the human subjects. Hidden within the subconscious patterns of each human mind, barely perceptible even with the most advanced Vindari technology, exists a second consciousness, vast, ancient, and unmistakably aware of being observed. They were never our prisoners, she whispers to the Admiral, her exoskeleton pale with terror. They allowed themselves to be captured. They wanted us to see. The Imperial Citadel on Vindar Prime towers above the capital Megalopolis, its crystalline spires refracting the light of 3 suns across the horizon. Admiral Krelthar stands before the ornate entrance to the ancestral vault, his military authorization codes already transmitted and acknowledged. Behind him, a nervous aide shifts his weight from one appendage to another. Admiral, the High Council has not sanctioned this level of access, the aide cautions. The ancestral vault contains knowledge deemed potentially destabilizing to Imperial order. Krelfar's compound eyes reflect the shimmering security field. Log your objection, then depart. What I've witnessed in the Sol system justifies any breach of protocol. The massive doors slide open with a sound like distant thunder, revealing a repository untouched by any save the Imperial archivists for millennia. Crystalline memory matrices line the walls, each containing knowledge preserved from the earliest days of Vindari civilization. The central interface responds to Krelfar's genetic signature, acknowledging his ancestral connection to the military lineage that helped establish the Empire. Holographic symbols flow around him as the system awakens. Access historical records concerning extradimensional entities and galactic containment protocols. He commands, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. The system hesitates, an unprecedented response from technology designed for instantaneous compliance. Finally, a warning materializes. Asterisk access to these records requires Imperial override authorization. Proceeding may expose sensitive information classified under the Eternal Compact asterisk. Krelthar inputs his override, and the vault dims momentarily before illuminating with ancient knowledge. 3-dimensional images surround him, depicting beings of impossible geometry. The architects who supposedly seeded life throughout the galaxy as part of a grand experiment spanning billions of years. The records detail how these architects encountered entities existing between dimensions, beings whose very nature warped the fabric of reality. Initially studied as curiosities, these entities eventually revealed their true nature, consciousness predating the universe itself, imprisoned when reality crystallized into its current form. The breach occurred during the 3rd expansion cycle, narrates a disembodied voice from the recording. The entities exploited a momentary thinning of dimensional boundaries during a supernova in Sector 17. 14 worlds were lost before containment was re-established. A holographic display shifts to show the aftermath. Planets reduced to shattered husks, their surfaces warped into impossible geometries, where physics itself collapsed. Project Guardian was implemented as the final solution, continues the narration, a specialized containment system, a living prison that would evolve alongside its inmates, keeping them pacified through a carefully maintained symbiotic relationship. Krelthar watches as the recording shows the creation of Earth's oceans, not as natural formations, but as containment medium for the entities. Above them, the architects construct a specialized organism, the template for what would become humanity. The guardian vessels represent our most advanced synthesis, explains a being of pure energy addressing an assembly of various species, some recognizable as evolutionary ancestors of current galactic civilizations, others entirely unknown. Conscious enough to maintain the prison through will alone, numerous enough to maintain continuity through natural reproduction, resilient enough to survive planetary cataclysms. Each human mind forms a fragment of the containment field, their collective consciousness creating a barrier the entities cannot breach. Most disturbing is the personal journal of Emperor Vindar I, founder of the Vindari civilization and namesake of their homeworld. The visual recording shows the ancient emperor, his exoskeleton bearing only the simplest of adornments, speaking directly to future generations. We encountered them during our first interstellar expedition, beings who appeared human but whose nature defied comprehension. They welcomed us as if expecting our arrival for millennia. I watched as one opened its face like a blossoming flower, revealing countless eyes gazing from a place where light moves differently. They showed us what sleeps beneath their oceans and the price of awakening it. The recording shows the Emperor trembling, a shocking display from the legendary figure known for unflinching courage. We have signed the compact with 17 other races. Earth must remain untouched. The humans are not our enemies nor our friends. They are necessity incarnate. Disturb them, and we risk becoming prey to the hunger that preceded time itself. As the recording ends, Krelthar stands motionless, the implications cascading through his tactical mind. The Empire's expansion plans, the proposed conquest of the Sol system, his own ambitions, all meaningless in the face of this ancient truth. The Imperial Citadel on Vindar Prime towers above the capital megalopolis, its crystalline spires refracting the light of 3 suns across the horizon. Admiral Krelthar stands before the ornate entrance to the ancestral vault, his military authorization codes already transmitted and acknowledged. Behind him, a nervous aide shifts his weight from one appendage to another. Admiral, the High Council has not sanctioned this level of access, the aide cautions. The ancestral vault contains knowledge deemed potentially destabilizing to Imperial order. Krelthar's compound eyes reflect the shimmering security field. Log your objection, then depart. What I've witnessed in the Sol system justifies any breach of protocol. The massive doors slide open with a sound like distant thunder, revealing a repository untouched by any save the Imperial archivists for millennia. Crystalline memory matrices line the walls, each containing knowledge preserved from the earliest days of Vindari civilization. The central interface responds to Krelthar's genetic signature, acknowledging his ancestral connection to the military lineage that helped establish the Empire. Holographic symbols flow around him as the system awakens. Access historical records concerning extradimensional entities and galactic containment protocols. He commands, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. The system hesitates, an unprecedented response from technology designed for instantaneous compliance. Finally, a warning materializes. Asterisk access to these records requires Imperial override authorization. Proceeding may expose sensitive information classified under the Eternal Compact asterisk. Krelthar inputs his override, and the vault dims momentarily before illuminating with ancient knowledge. 3-dimensional images surround him, depicting beings of impossible geometry. The architects who supposedly seeded life throughout the galaxy as part of a grand experiment spanning billions of years. The records detail how these architects encountered entities existing between dimensions, beings whose very nature warped the fabric of reality. Initially studied as curiosities, these entities eventually revealed their true nature, consciousness predating the universe itself, imprisoned when reality crystallized into its current form. The breach occurred during the 3rd expansion cycle, narrates a disembodied voice from the recording. The entities exploited a momentary thinning of dimensional boundaries during a supernova in Sector 17. 14 worlds were lost before containment was re-established. The holographic display shifts to show the aftermath. Planets reduced to shattered husks, their surfaces warped into impossible geometries, where physics itself collapsed. Project Guardian was implemented as the final solution, continues the narration. A specialized containment system, a living prison that would evolve alongside its inmates, keeping them pacified through a carefully maintained symbiotic relationship. Krelfar watches as the recording shows the creation of Earth's oceans, not as natural formations, but as containment medium for the entities. Above them, the architects construct a specialized organism, the template for what would become humanity. The Guardian vessels represent our most advanced synthesis, explains a being of pure energy addressing an assembly of various species, some recognizable as evolutionary ancestors of current galactic civilizations, others entirely unknown. Conscious enough to maintain the prison through will alone, numerous enough to maintain continuity through natural reproduction, resilient enough to survive planetary cataclysms. Each human mind forms a fragment of the containment field, their collective consciousness creating a barrier the entities cannot breach. Most disturbing is the personal journal of Emperor Vindar I, founder of the Vindari civilization and namesake of their homeworld. The visual recording shows the ancient emperor, his exoskeleton bearing only the simplest of adornments, speaking directly to future generations. We encountered them during our first interstellar expedition, beings who appeared human but whose nature defied comprehension. They welcomed us as if expecting our arrival for millennia. I watched as one opened its face like a blossoming flower, revealing countless eyes gazing from a place where light moves differently. They showed us what sleeps beneath their oceans and the price of awakening it. The recording shows the Emperor trembling, a shocking display from the legendary figure known for unflinching courage. We have signed the compact with 17 other races. Earth must remain untouched. The humans are not our enemies nor our friends. They are necessity incarnate. Disturb them, and we risk becoming prey to the hunger that preceded time itself. As the recording ends, Krelfar stands motionless, the implications cascading through his tactical mind. The Empire's expansion plans, the proposed conquest of the Sol system, his own ambitions, all meaningless in the face of this ancient truth. The air in the council chamber is thick with silence. Chancellor Vrexmore stands frozen, his confidence shattered, staring at the image of the ancient being. The voices of the hundreds of representatives, each from a species far more advanced and ancient than the Vindari, hang in the air like a curse. Admiral Krelfar is the first to speak, his voice measured, a quiet authority cutting through the disarray. We have underestimated them. All of us. The Empire has believed in the supremacy of its strength for too long, and now the truth is clear. The Chancellor snaps his gaze toward Krelfar, but his words falter before they escape his mouth. He wants to strike back, to shout defiance, but his voice betrays him. The vision, the warning, has broken something inside him. His heart pounds with the weight of the ancient being's words, and the thought of the delicate balance being upended fills him with a deep, unshakable dread. Do not misunderstand, Krelfar continues, his eyes scanning the faces of the council. This is not a simple war. We are not facing enemies. We are facing reality itself. This compact, it's not about diplomacy. It's about survival, our survival. The consequences of our actions reach far beyond the boundaries of this empire. The chamber remains still as the reality of the situation sinks in. The holographic displays flicker as the combined fleets of the various galactic civilizations continue to hold position in perfect formation around Vindar Prime. Their weapons, active but inactive, hover in a silent threat. "Admiral," says a voice from across the room, one of the younger council members. "We cannot allow our empire to bow to the will of others. This is weakness, a surrender to what?" Krelfar interrupts, his voice now sharp. "To the delusion that we control the galaxy, that we can impose our will on forces beyond even our comprehension." He shakes his head. The Vindari Empire has reigned for millennia. But we are nothing in the face of this reality. Nothing. For a long moment, no one speaks. The room is heavy with the tension of the unknown. Finally, Vrexmore moves, his posture rigid as he approaches the central podium. His voice cracks as he addresses the Ancient One across the communication channel. "You have made your demands clear," Vrexmore says, his voice betraying a flicker of fear, something none had ever thought they would hear from their leader. "But we." "You are at the threshold," the ancient being interrupts, its voice a low hum now, its resonance vibrating not just through the chamber, but through every Vindari mind. "The choice is not yours alone. The compact has already been signed. Your kind, though unaware, has been bound by its laws for eons. You are a part of the cycle, but the cycle must not be broken." Another pulse of energy surges across the system, and once again, every Vindari experiences the vision. Only this time, it is clearer. Humans, the true guardians of the boundary between dimensions, standing resolute despite the odds. Their bodies, flesh and blood, are the key to the fragile structure that holds the entities at bay. They are not the prisoners, they are the keepers. The walls of the cage are made of human thought, belief, and willpower. The balance is upheld by them alone. And then, beneath the surface, something stirs. A murmur, a ripple of awakening. The vision deepens, revealing a vast, terrifying power beneath Earth's oceans, an intelligence beyond comprehension, older than the stars themselves, locked in slumber for eternity. And as the vision fades, the words of the Ancient One resonate again. "You have pushed too far. The moment has come for your species to choose. Withdraw from Sol, or let the consequences unfold." Krelthar looks to Vrexmore, his face grim. "We have been warned. The Empire's ambition has blinded us. Our strength is nothing against this." The Chancellor's expression hardens, the weight of centuries of imperial pride battling with the knowledge of his people's insignificance in the grand scheme. He turns to the Council, his voice quiet but firm. "We will not risk extinction. The Vindari Empire will follow the compact. For now, we retreat." The holo-projector in the center of the room flickers once more, and the ancient being appears again, its translucent form shimmering with otherworldly light. Its compound eyes settle on the Chancellor. "Your decision has been noted. But know this, the Watchers are not without mercy, though their understanding of life and death is far different from yours. We will leave your empire to the galaxy you have built, but the boundary will hold. The prison will remain, and Earth will continue its role as it has for eons." The transmission ends, and the room falls into a profound silence. Krelthar steps back, his shoulders heavy with the realization of what they have narrowly avoided. The Vindari Empire will withdraw from Sol, but there is no real victory in that. We now know that we are not the masters of the stars. There are forces far beyond our reach. Vrexmore, now more somber than anyone has ever seen him, nods. "We will learn, and we will remember." The council members leave the chamber in subdued silence, their once proud empire now reeling from the truth of its limitations. As the last of them exits, Krelthar remains standing, gazing out over the Vindari homeworld. The stars, once symbols of conquest, now seem like distant, indifferent points of light. The storm has passed, but the awakening has only just begun.